Hey folks, this is Rhykker, and no matter how high you thought the level of hype for Path of Exile 2 was, you probably underestimated it. The devs certainly did. In this weekly news wrap-up video, we'll talk about PoE 2's incredible launch week. We'll also cover Diablo 4's Season 7 test server going live, Ubisoft pulling a major Grinch maneuver right before Christmas, and GOG's response to Blizzard delisting their old games from their shop. So stick around to find out what's going on in the world of ARPGs and beyond. But before we go on, a quick word from this video's sponsor, Hero Wars. If you grew up with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles like I did, then you may want to check this out. Thanks to a collaboration between Paramount Pictures and Nexters, the Ninja Turtles are stepping into the world of Hero Wars. From December 2nd to 22nd, you'll have the chance to recruit these iconic characters for free and experience a special event that brings their story into the game's Dominion universe. During this limited time event, you'll fight alongside the Turtles, uncover their backstory, and unlock their potential as part of your squad. Whether you're already a Hero Wars player or if you've been curious about trying it out, this is the time to jump in. In addition to the Turtles themselves, which I'll repeat you'll be able to get without spending a penny, the event offers exclusive Shredder and Casey Jones skins, bonus rewards, and a variety of limited time offers designed to power up your heroes. But there's a catch. Once the event ends, the Turtles will no longer be available to acquire. But they will remain on your account forever if you got them, so don't wait too long to get into the action. Hero Wars is available on mobile, iOS and Android, and even in your browser, so whichever way you prefer to play. Whether you're reliving your nostalgia for TMNT or just looking for a fresh way to engage with Hero Wars, this event promises a lot of fun. Cowabunga. Starting with Diablo 4 news, the test server for Season 7 went up this week. I have a video with my first impressions right over here. In short, it feels like we're playing back the greatest hits of past seasons, and I got mixed feelings about that. And you can check out the video for full details on the season theme and my thoughts. One thing that I didn't mention in that video, we actually got more UI improvements. You can actually see now character customization options a lot better as like icon format previews, so that's nice. One story that's making the rounds though about Diablo this week, Brent Gibson, the game director of Vessel of Hatred, said in an interview with Polygon that he's sticking to his guns on the Dark Citadel and its forced multiplayer design. And this hasn't exactly sat well with a lot of players. Specifically, he said, quote, "I absolutely am sticking to my guns. We've designed it in a way where, to be the most efficient in the game, it's not required to have to go through that multiplayer content. I love the fact that we have this huge, rich game that has a bunch of different activities that give you alternate paths in the same loop." Personally, I love the Dark Citadel. I didn't expect to, but I think it's actually some of the best designed content in the game. That said, I can totally understand why some players are frustrated at being unable to run it solo. I am in a privileged position where I can turn on my stream and have access to people that I can run the Citadel with, people who I know will not treat me like crap. I don't like playing games with complete strangers. I did pub groups in Lost Ark raids, and I didn't like the experience. Not because I disliked the raids themselves, I thought they were well designed, I just didn't like the random group experience. I wouldn't be opposed to some mode that lets players run the Citadel solo, maybe being able to command their mercenary around. I just would not want to see that hurt the design of the Dark Citadel or make future potential raid content less interestingly designed. Gibson went on to say, quote, "The other thing that I want to really pay attention to is that even though we have a lot of players who play games solo, the community in the gaming industry that doesn't know playing games any other way than with their friends or online with other people, it's growing over time." And sure, that's true, but having content in the game that can be soloed doesn't mean it's not content that is catered to people who want to play with their friends. We can have it both ways. You can make content that is party focused first, but still soloable. The game already massively favors group play, like by making boss rotations so rewarding. Oh, and not to get sidetracked here, but nice little quality of life change that we can make. Whenever someone puts in the material to summon a boss, just have it output in chat. Rhykker has summoned Duriel. Will be nice just because it's easy to lose track when you're doing a rotation. Oh, did you go? Who went last? If it's just there in the chat log, that'd just be fantastic. But back on track here. When Diablo 4 was first revealed, to have this shared open world, I already had massive concerns about it moving Diablo in an MMO direction, similar to Lost Ark. Now, I've tried dozens of MMOs over the years, and I can never really get into MMOs. I'm just not into MMOs. Sure, there's similarities between MMOs and ARPGs, but there are huge fundamental differences, and I am a ARPG fan, and I am just not an MMORPG fan. However, had they really leaned into the MMO angle from the start, with forced multiplayer raids and everything like that from day one, then that would have been a clearer direction for potential players, and it would have been a clearer distinguishing factor for Diablo 4 versus other ARPGs. And as much as I'm not a fan of the MMO angle, that was the vision of the original creators of Diablo. They wanted Diablo 2 to have a massively multiplayer Battle.net town. They wanted that to be the trade hub and how you would group up with players. They just didn't have time to implement it, so we got instead the chat channels and the server browser. And their original vision for Diablo 3, which they started working on before they left Blizzard, was an MMO. And it was actually Blizzard, when they took over Diablo 3 and rebooted it, that they focused it back into a solo-oriented game that we ended up getting. But the original Diablo devs, they saw MMO as the future of the genre. And again, I say this as someone for whom this direction is not what I want. And I think a lot of us core ARPG fans feel similarly, but we can't deny that the MMO audience is huge, and there is surely a market for games that bridge the gap between MMO and ARPG. Had Diablo 4 leaned into the MMO angle from day one, I think they would have, first off, left behind a whole lot of us core fans, but I think they would have picked up a ton of World of Warcraft and other MMO players. I mean, modern WoW is full of ideas borrowed from Diablo. But now, today, Diablo 4 is a known entity. It launched not as an MMO, but as an ARPG with maybe some slight MMO elements. It's not known to be an MMO. So after a year and a half, adding forced group content, again, I can understand why existing players are not happy with that decision. Blizzard themselves said 85% of their players play solo. So making content for 15% of the player base in order to try to better appeal to those types of players and bring in new ones, or otherwise just convince the 85% to play groups, it still feels like a strange move to make a year and a half post-launch. Now, before wrapping up the Diablo section of the video, just a couple more quality of life suggestions for the game. First off, being able to better search the skill tree would be great. You get an amulet, it gives you +1 to some passive skill. Okay, I don't recognize what the skill is. Which passive is it? What does it do? How do I find it in the skill tree? I have to go open up the skill tree and then look through every single passive node until I find the one with the right name. Why can't we just search the skill tree by typing in a skill name? Or if the typing is impossible, just have an alphabetical list of all the passives that we can expand, so we can just mouse over some kind of a game guide or something for easy reference. Just a minor inconvenience there. Another thing, I keep having people ask, when comparing two items, how do I compare a new item to a masterworked item's base stats? Because I got a new item, I already have my 12 out of 12 masterworked item, how do I know that this new item is an upgrade? Because obviously the masterworked item has higher stats because they've been masterworked. And without running math, there's just no way to make that comparison right now. So maybe, you hold down a key and that's going to remove the masterworked affixes from the mathematical comparison between the two items. Again, just a nice little quality of life thing. Now, with Season 7 PTR having launched this week, I'm actually seeing less interest in Season 7 than possibly any previous season of Diablo 4. And a major reason for that, of course, is all the excitement that a ton of people have for Path of Exile 2, which went into early access yesterday. I played for a few hours yesterday. I'll be playing more today. Come by my stream at twitch.tv/Rhykker. I made it to the end of Act 1 yesterday, and I'm currently stuck on the boss. Overall, the game is actually not as hard as I thought it would be, but it is still a challenging game, and I'm really enjoying myself. I'm playing a Summoner Witch, not following any guides at all, going in full blind playthrough, just trying to do my own thing, and the gameplay feels really smooth. The changes to systems from PoE 1 are all improvements, making the game much more accessible while still having a ton of depth. I don't feel lost at all about the mechanics, but I still feel like I have a ton of noodling I can do to try to figure out how to optimize my build. I'll have more thorough videos on my experience in the future. But prior to the launch of PoE 2, the game was already the top-selling game on Steam during the week, beating out Baldur's Gate 3 and Counter-Strike 2. The hype for PoE 2 has been real. we got throughout the week the reveal of all the Ascendancy classes available in early access. One thing that I thought was actually a nice touch, when you look at the Ascendancies, is how they lay out all the nodes in some kind of symbolic representation of something or other, kind of like a constellation. Then earlier in the week, game director Jonathan Rogers had also said that they were prepared for 1 million players in instance capacity. But then on the day before launch, he put out a video explaining that they had just reached 1 million early access redemptions, and sales were still increasing. They really didn't expect to have more than 1 million during early access, and while they did everything that they could to increase capacity, he had concerns that their back end would just not be able to handle that many players at once. He apologized and expressed that, yeah, players are probably going to have to sit in queues over the weekend. Ultimately, yes, when launch time came around, servers did crumble. It took us a couple of hours before we were able to reliably play the game, and then concurrent players on Steam peaked at 459,000. And that's only Steam players. That's not counting those using the standalone launcher like myself, or console players. And it really is a testament to how hyped this game is. Path of Exile 2 will be free to play in less than a year. And yet they already have over 1 million people paying just for early access. What a wonderful success story for a couple of guys who started off as Diablo 2 fans working out of Chris Wilson's garage, trying to make a game that would recapture the feeling of something like Diablo 2. And in case you folks don't know, for 2 weeks, you can earn Twitch drops for watching PoE 2 streams. Week 1 drops, which run until December 14th, are the Energizing Bolt Flask effect and the Halo of the Righteous helmet attachment. Watch 3 hours of anyone streaming in the PoE 2 section and you'll get those drops. Week 2 drops, which run until December 22nd, is the Temporal Lord's Portal effect. They're also running the Support a Streamer program during this time. If you buy or gift 2 subs, you'll get the Chimera Pet. All right, on to some Ubisoft news. This week, it's a real negative Ubisoft headline. In last week's video, I covered several Ubisoft headlines that were being painted and framed as Ubisoft bad when really they were either sensationalized or misrepresentations or just potentially outright lies, just for the sake of dunking on Ubisoft because it's popular to do so. And because I believe in truth and facts, I debunked those stories, effectively defending Ubisoft, even though I knew that would be an unpopular move. The easy thing to do is to dogpile and crap on the big company. I benefit in zero way by defending Ubisoft. I have zero relationship with Ubisoft, and longtime viewers know that I've called out their crap in the past, in multiple past videos, as I'm about to do in this video. And as many of you have pointed out, Ubisoft doesn't deserve defending. But the truth always deserves defending. Saying that Ubisoft isn't murdering babies isn't saying Ubisoft is a virtuous and wonderful company. It's just debunking lies. And saying, well, who cares if they're not doing that thing? They're still doing terrible things. I care. You should care. Everyone should care. Truth and facts matter. My employment history before becoming a YouTuber was in science and then in journalism. All that matters is facts and truth. And I will always defend that. And speaking of facts, it is a fact that Ubisoft is laying off nearly 300 employees mere weeks before Christmas. They announced that they are shutting down XDefiant in June 2025, a bit more than a year since the game launched, and they'll just have a skeleton crew keeping things alive until then. They're shutting down a studio in Osaka, a studio in San Francisco, and production at its Sydney office is being ramped down. Half the XDefiant team will allegedly be moved on to other roles within Ubisoft, but an apparent 277 people will be made redundant, with some already let go as of this week. XDefiant was Ubisoft's attempt to take on Call of Duty, with one of their major selling points being no skill-based matchmaking. That's a common complaint amongst some segment of higher-skilled FPS players who don't get to have fun stomping on noobs because they keep getting matched with people who give them a fair fight. Well, as it turns out, skill-based matchmaking helps keep a game alive because most noobs nowadays don't keep playing a game if every time they join a server, some pub all-star is always stomping them into dust. Combine that with a lack of Steam release, making most of us forget this game even existed, terrible netcode, constant bunny hopping, and imbalanced abilities, and it's no surprise that the title, which released to mixed critic reviews, was unprofitable. And you can't blame Ubisoft for shutting down an unprofitable game. You can blame them for releasing it to begin with, and you can especially blame them for laying off all these employees. You're telling me that we're not going to see them rehire talent at a cheaper cost in maybe 1 or 2 quarters from now? And you can also super duper especially blame them for doing these layoffs right before Christmas. Best of luck to everyone who lost their jobs due to poor corporate decisions. And in our final story, Blizzard has apparently asked GOG to remove Warcraft 1 and 2 from their shop. It was about 5 years ago that these old classics launched on GOG, but now that Blizzard has just released remastered versions of Warcraft 1 and 2, it seems they don't want people buying the GOG versions anymore. In a statement, GOG explained that as per Blizzard's request, they'll be delisting Warcraft 1 and 2 from their store on December 13th. However, until then, they are running a sale for $2 off the $15 bundle for the 2 games. Just enter the discount code MakeWarcraftLiveForever. They're also pledging to continue to support their version of these games for existing customers, even though no future customers will be able to buy them. The GOG versions of these games have no DRM on them. In fact, this entire event has spurred GOG to update their game preservation program policy to include a pledge to continue to maintain and support games they sell, even once they are no longer available for sale on GOG, in order to ensure the games remain compatible with modern and future systems. GOG is fighting the good fight for game preservation. And that's going to wrap up this video. But do be sure to check out last week's video in which we debunked some of those recent Ubisoft headlines. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Patreon supporters for making these videos possible. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to join Rhykkers Raiders for more gaming content.